So here we have 1993 Mustang GT, last year of this body style of a Fox body, right? Because Fox chassis went on, but this is an OG 5.0 in a Reef Blue over silver, which is a pretty sought after color combination. It was only on 93s, and we can go through the Marti Report into detail. I'm sure the auction's going to show that when we get into it. That'll show the limited amount of numbers that were produced of this specific color. So there are a couple, I guess, confusing points. Some people get Reef confused with Calypso. Some people get it confused with the Cobra Teal metallic. And what I normally describe Reef as is kind of, if you were to take this and the Calypso, you would get the teal. And I don't know what it is. Back in the day, me personally, I thought this was a little bit of a, I don't know, I think we called it a chick color. And now I think a lot of tables have turned just because it's rarity, and it's one of those colors that when it's clean and it's freshly detailed, such as this one, it looks really, really nice. It's rare to find one that looks so nice in original paint form, which Ven's just recently gone around with the paint meter and validated that this is all, in fact, original paint on this car. And the other cool thing is that, yes, it is just about ready to turn 13,000 miles. And I think out of all the owners and all of the information, the history of this car was documented with it, is that I think I've probably put the most amount of miles on this car in a month's time than all the other owners have combined. So this car was actually found up in Ontario, Canada. I was up there visiting for the summer, working on another Mustang, of course. And a friend of mine says, hey, are you interested in like a 10,000 mile original Fox body? And I said, well, why wouldn't I be? But I highly doubt it's 10,000. Are you sure it's not 110? He's like, no, it's 10. So he makes a few phone calls and we go, and I thought he was, lying to me. I didn't think, because it's always like my friend knows somebody who knows somebody, and this actually turned out to be legit. So I guess note to self, sometimes you got to give people the benefit of the doubt, or if you think things are too good to be true, sometimes you just got to go down the rabbit hole and hope for the best. And well, here it is. And the gentleman had bought it at an auction. He had all the paperwork, the Marti Report, the Carfax, all of the original titles somehow managed to get transferred along to each owner throughout its timeline, and ended up in Canada. So originally starting off in Missouri, the original window sticker is there, the original build sheets with the car, 2 sets of keys, the manual, all of the good stuff that you would expect with an original car of this amount of miles. And going through all that history, it was brought up to Canada, and I think around 2014 to Alberta. So the Texas of Canada, if you will. And from there, they might have put on more miles. If there's a couple service records and everything else that kind of validate and document out the miles. But from there, it ended up in Toronto, and then I picked it up off of. So the car got around, I want to say it was 7 owners in this little spreadsheet that somebody had put together, and did all of that up until around 2014, 17. Need to double check the paperwork. I'm sure it'll get thrown into this video. And from there, not much happened. And, it lived around, I want to say the 8,000 mile mark. Could be a little bit off with that. However, I decided, you know what? This is a perfect opportunity to bring this car back down south and bring it back down to Texas, clean it all up, because it definitely needed a paint correction. You'll see in some of the photos and footage that I have of driving the car across the country from Canada back to Texas, it needed some love. But with that said, the car started every single time and drove absolutely flawlessly. It was probably one of the best Fox body road trip experiences that I have had in my history of owning and driving Fox bodies. And this car, I think, is meant to be driven. We're not talking about a wrapper car here with, 100 or 200 miles. We're talking with something that has right around the 10,000 mile mark. And I think it'd be an amazing, whether you want to kind of keep it in its form, but at the same time, it's a perfect opportunity. If you want something that's original, clean, reliable, it'll get you to where you need to go. And the one thing that I know, the elephant in the room, as soon as interior B-roll starts happening, it's an automatic car. Over the years, I get it. People want to see a 5-speed, especially in a Mustang. It's like, ooh, an automatic. But let me tell you, even me, myself, there's something to be said that if you're cruising in original stock form and you really want to enjoy the experience, there's something about just putting the car in drive and set it and forget it. You know what I mean? Not that the car's driving itself, but it definitely makes for a pretty enjoyable road trip or cruising experience. And I don't think it's necessarily a drawback whatsoever. That could be your decision to make, but me personally, I think it'd be all right. I know there's a number of owners that are tired of putting in clutch pedals and maybe getting a little bit older and they don't want to push on that center force clutch anymore and they want something a little bit easier to drive. And this would be a really good example of that. So here we are, the car's polished up, it's looking great, and the opportunity for somebody else to take possession of this thing. For anybody that follows me and my channel, you would know that I modify cars. Stock and original, it's amazing to see. I appreciate it. I love it. But at the end of the day, I need to, I'd be probably swapping out springs and putting different wheels and swapping exhaust and starting to do things on this car, which I know this isn't the platform to do that to. Maybe somebody else wants to. You want to Coyote swap it, Godzilla swap it, do any of those things, by all means. If you own the car, you can do whatever you want to. But I think this is an ultra rare example, and I'm super excited to make it available for the right owner. All right, so well, here's the engine bay, all 225 horses of power available back in 1993. So yeah, so pretty much original, unmolested, untouched in here. For anybody that's curious, the air silencer is still living behind the airbox in here. I'm sure some photos in the auction are going to demonstrate that. All of the original smog, pollution, EPA compliant stuff is there, pollution pump, all of the lines, everything that goes to the crossover tube on the back behind, the headers and to the factory H-pipe. And when you guys see the underside of this car, you're going to see all that factory exhaust and everything else. And just kind of looking a little bit more closely at some things when you start seeing, the stickers for all the part numbers on harnesses and stuff like this, that usually ends up coming off over time, depending on how many details, pressure washes, or just the glue wants to let loose after a little bit of time, and sometimes as a result you won't have that. You can see this car has never been aligned to the point where the rivets needed to be drilled off or anything of that nature on the top plates here, and things like the hood insulator pad. And this one could use a little bit of a dressing on it, but in really good shape. Most of these end up just getting pulled off and tossed to the side. And aside from the paint meter readings, if we kind of take a look at what denotes all original panels, you can see all the original VIN stickers on every single panel can be found on this car from the front bumper cover. And you got them on both upper ends of the fenders up here, on the hood, bottom sides of the doors and the hatch, etc. So by being able to validate all of those stickers, we know that not a single panel has been replaced on the car. And more importantly, there hasn't been ever any paint work done to the car, which those paint readings, again, have validated for us. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it for... yeah, so aside from that, oil was changed fresh before the road trip. Couldn't tell you on the spark plugs. I never checked them, or anything else for that matter, because, well, with the mileage and everything else, I literally just wanted to do proof of concept of this thing, hop in it, turn the key, and do the road trip. And it was successful. There's no misfires. There's no funny business. The car cold starts perfectly. The EGR does what it's supposed to do. Cold idle, all of those things, which you guys, I'm sure, will see in a startup video. And there's maybe another 1,500 miles left on the oil that's in this car. So it was freshly changed, like I said, with 1,500. So whether you guys want to change that or you want to wait until the beginning of next season, that's completely up to you. And that's pretty much it for underneath the hood. All right, so let's talk about the interior. And as I'm walking up to the interior, you can notice all the quarter window moldings are in fantastic shape, which is always a poor point to the exterior of Fox bodies that have been outside in the elements. So these ones are all nice and smooth. and the window run channels and everything else are in great shape, no cracks, which is always nice to see. And there's that classic low mile opening sound of a Fox body. And doors open and close good. The striker bushing, I promise you, was on there when I got the car, and all of those 1,500 miles of road tripping, the bushing came off. So that may or may not be replaced before the car goes to auction. And another fix that I actually have not done that I always do, I don't think there's a Fox body that I haven't done this fix to, unless it's already been done, and that is the saggy map pockets. Normally what I'll do is I'll pull the elastics out from the inside and tie a knot in them, but these guys are just, amazingly enough, borderline all right. So I'm gonna let the next person, if they wanna cut these factory elastics and tighten that up, that can be on them, but I'm leaving them untouched for now. So usually these start sagging, they get caught in the door's weather strip when you close it, and you end up with tears and stains and everything else. But that's actually something that's really, really nice to see. And the armrest pads in good shape here, all the trim, the writing on the door switch area, all of these types of things are in really, really nice condition. And everything in this interior works, every switch, every feature. The AC blows ice cold, which if I look over, I believe it's still running its factory R112, and it is, or R12, sorry. And so the AC works, the heat works. I don't think the radio works. And the radio actually, which is probably premium sound, I don't know if there was an extra charge for that. There was a charge we just saw for the automatic transmission of $600, believe it or not. Amazing shape. Steering wheel is in amazing condition, as you would expect. The seats as well, no wear on the bolsters, nothing like that. Power lumbar, the cruise control works, the ashtray door, all of those things. And this is an opal gray interior, which is specific to 1993 Mustangs. So you had a smoke gray, a titanium gray, and then the opal gray. So the opal is very similar to that of the smoke gray of the pre-90 cars, but again, in really, really nice shape. Things like the seat belts are really nice. And I know a lot of guys, you know, they like to look at the wear on the brake pedal, especially, or clutch pedal if it had one. I'll be able to show some pictures on that, and you'll be able to see firsthand that the mileage reflects the wear and tear on this vehicle. So weather strip, seals, all of those little things, the little plastics, the commonalities of a Fox that typically want to break or crack or cause you issues. This car doesn't have any of those, with the exception of that striker bushing, and I'm pointing that out because I know if I replace it, someone is going to say, oh, well, the striker bushing's been replaced. So similarly, if I went ahead and touched the map pockets, which I opted not to. All of that good stuff is there. We can actually probably, where are the keys to this thing? All right, so 2 sets of original Ford keys, and they're not even like yellowed really or worn down. You could probably see which set has been used more than the other. Again, really good condition. All that factory stuff is with it. And what's really neat, so the hatch struts do work, and everything in the back as you would expect, including the cargo net, the cargo cover, everything works there. Fresh FL1A oil filter, and I don't want to peel all this back and cause more damage than required to any of this stuff, but I'm sure it'll be in photos. Everything that you would expect to be underneath here with the spare is in 10,000 mile-ish form. Car being a 93, it does have the upgraded striker in the back as well, so you aren't there bashing your hatch to try and get it shut properly. And you can see all of the lines and everything are really, really good on this car. So interior is just as nice as the exterior on this thing, which really makes it a treat and a rarity to find in this condition. What else can we talk about? Wheels and tires, right? Factory 16-inch ponies on some really old tires. Now, I don't know when they stopped making these Goodyear Eagle LS tires, I believe the date code is in like 2000, late 2000s, but they are not dry rotted. They are not cracked. They drove the 1,500 miles across the country without any issues. You know, it sucks that back in the day, that wheel actually doesn't have one, and I couldn't tell you if it just didn't need it. Actually, something tells me there might have been a wheel weight right here, and that might have flung off at some point, but you know, they actually mounted wheel weights to the exterior lips of the wheels back then, which still baffles me, but it is what it is. All right, here we are on the underside of this beautiful car. And earlier I mentioned a driver, and you could tell that on the underside, again, this isn't your wrapper car. There's a lot of things that look really, really good. And then there's a couple things that just indicate that the car was driven, does have some miles and some time have gone by. And one thing that I noticed as soon as we got this thing up was right here, a little tug mark. And there's one right here on this side. So clearly at some point, somebody had some hooks and towed the car and bent the sheet metal a little bit. Now one could take a hammer and some Duplicolor touch-up paint and try and touch that up. I rather just the truth and the story of the car be visible to whoever's considering purchasing it. Now with that said, beautiful lower radiator support that does not appear to have ever pulled up too close to any parking curbs or anything of that nature. When you look at all the front bumper cover stuff, nothing has grabbed the lower bumper again by pulling over a curb and backing over and ripping this urethane down. And right, you get stuff like all this hardware that's still gold in color, even up in the fenders. I know the camera's probably not able to pick that up, but it's all nice and shiny up in there. And in fact, you can see the air silencer now. That's still up there behind the filter. And things like the factory sway bar still in a beautiful black color. The control arms are still black. But then if you look at things like the actual spindle unit, which was bare metal, you can see some surface rust and scale on there. Now again, nothing compared to a car that's been driven in salt or in brine or in crazy wintry conditions by any means. But yeah, this factory H-pipe in great condition, even with the catback exhaust, the little hardware clips that are here to kind of be as an anchor when you're tightening all the exhaust down are all in place. And in contrast, you see a really ugly looking drive shaft because again, it was just bare, it wasn't coated. And the old dog bone on the diff is here and everything as it should be, just a little bit of surface corrosion. And again, if you took some WD-40 and a Scotch pad, this stuff would clean up really, really nice. In fact, here, this label isn't off. So you still got a sticker on here. I'm sure there would be some paint pen markings and whatnot on the shocks that are kind of here and here and all of that stuff. You still got the sticker on the factory rear springs. So some of it is there, some of it is gone. Floor pan overall, beautiful, beautiful shape, torque boxes, right? Not all jacked up. And thankfully, this was a car that nobody has jacked up on the pinch welds, at least nothing too crazy. There might have been a pad right here. There's a tiniest little bit of flex right there, maybe a nice soft, you know, one of those short posts. You know, that one's clipped a little bit over here. And it's not completely folded. And again, somebody could, you know, you can straighten that back out, but I rather point it out than, you know, try and do the little fixes and little hacks to make think something else. So again, all the pollution stuff's all hooked up, no leaks. I know that this was freshly detailed, which technically could have masked some leaks, but if we look here, the seal coming out of the back, tail shaft of the transmission, that is dry as dry can be. Everything around the transmission pan is extremely dry. No rear main seal leak. I don't think you guys, unless you saw any oil beforehand, but as far as I was concerned, this car never leaked a drop of oil from anywhere. And again, you know, little surface on the starter. Being a 93, it does have the high torque mini starter, so it is a little smaller in size than what some would be used to seeing. And I guess that's pretty much it in a nutshell. There's tons to talk about with Fox body stuff, but it's just neat to see one that's so untouched in many ways.